But I guess I should just let that take me down because oh goodness.
Can you
Go.
do it?
Yeah. I'm just tired. I'm lazy. It's like I don't know. There are periods of life, like especially when I'm like looking for jobs, or might get a new job or whatever. I get this sense of freedom. It's kind of exhausting because I was just always this free instead of waiting for the right moment to do. And so on and so on and so on. Anyway, that's deep existential thought, and that is not for you, live people, nosy. Jeez. Gosh. Can I have some private time? Can I have some private thoughts? Hi, Mel. How are you?
Hi, Yaze. I'm doing okay.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
How are you?
I'm not bad. Not bad. It's important that we check in, though. You know, that's the new wave is to check in with people, even when they're strong or tough and that kind of stuff. I think the music's going to come in very soon, and that will indicate that. But I warned you. Yeah. Woo! Hey, live viewer, whoever you are.
Welcome to Woke with Kids.
With Inyaze and
Melissa.
Yeah. And if you're new to the show, we are a married couple out of LA. And we are kind of artsy fartsy, and we talk about politics and stuff because, you know, Black Lives Matter and stuff. You know, things like that. That's all. Right? You agree with that?
I do. Very
not controversial.
much so.
Yeah, it's not controversial.
Not over here.
I don't think so. Goodness, wow, the whole universe just changed. Guys, you're just seeing news right now. I don't know why it's doing that. That's not normally what it does. That's a little bit more like it. Goodness, here we are, back again. News, you'll have a chance to come back. Trump, look at you, just jumping all up in our news, unasked, uninvited. What are we talking about? This is a podcast about things.
Well, you know, we're gonna run it down. We're gonna talk a little politics.
Yeah.
Politricks.
Yeah. Thank you, honey. Thank you for stretching. Thank you
we're gonna
for
talk
filling in
some
for your
news
husband's
and
lack
culture.
Your husband's lack of preparedness. I don't have any of my stories open.
We're going to talk some news and culture.
Oh,
we're
going
to talk some
your
Black
rib.
excellence.
I am your rib. Have you seen the new iMac people? It's something to see. Okay, no, let's talk. Trump is in the UK. All right, Trump is strutting his Trump stuff over in the UK. And he's, in case you missed it, he's an American president. He was elected legally. That's what I'm led to believe. I haven't seen the birth certificate, but that's what we're going with. And so, like any normal American president, divested of his economic interests and not making money or involved in his capitalistic enterprise. Oh,
yeah.
bat signal. Hi. Okay. What do we make it? It's classic woke with kids. I love it. All right. So I'll continue. So instead of acting like a normal president and just taking his immediate family, he also brought his grown children along to meet with the second generation or the next generation, I guess, of white imperialist power. I don't know. I don't know how these things work anymore. But yeah, so Trump is in England and he's, kind of doing what he does best, which is being a, sort of bloviating white guy and kind of throwing his weight around. Melania wore a white and blue dress. It was lovely. Did you see it? It's great. It's great. Very presidential. Ivanka, lovely as usual. I have nothing but good things to say about Ivanka, except for, her father and her, whole collusion with the whole situation. But she got booed, or did she? I don't know. She got booed. Maybe she didn't. Fox News is undecided about the situation. I don't know. So Yeah, so he's over there doing that, representing America. You're welcome. Wow, what a wonderful thing. I love it. Mel's out with the kids right now, so I'm just gonna soldier on without her on some boring stuff. What do we got here what else we got to talk about? Brexit, don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't know. A lot of things happening. I'm not good at this without my wife. Oh my God. Let me find my saved stories. Because there were some things that I wanted to talk about actually. That were kind of interesting. That's my save stories aren't. Here we go. There we go. Here we go. I don't want to talk about this without Mel, but like I got to get into it, right? I got to talk about Virginia Beach again. I got to talk about Virginia Beach. We got to talk about the shooting. We got to talk about that. Can I get into it? Can I start to talk about it with you guys? Can we talk about it a little bit together? You heard about this? Woo! 12 people died. 12 people died after a man put in his a long-term worker, a long-term city employee, a civil engineer at that. I don't know what that means per se. They put that word engineer behind a lot of things, but I don't know what he did for a living specifically. He might have been a janitor for all I know. I don't know. But he was there for a long time, and people said he was a very nice guy. They said things about him, and, oh, God, I want Mel to be here because this is like, but, they said things about him that rival white men, okay? All right, they said empathetic things about him that people thought he was a nice guy. They never thought he had a problem, but he put his resignation in. He resigned, and then he came back to the place with 2 legally bought weapons, 2 legally bought firearms, and he killed a lot of people. He killed a lot of people, including his boss. And we still don't know why. And the worst part of all this, the worst part of all this, for me, is that he was a black guy. Oh my God, the embarrassment, the horror, the shame. At least that was my first thought. The first thought was this is just what black people need, just when white people were starting to trust us. But then I caught that stray anti-black thought. I caught it in the air like a butterfly, like a black butterfly. I caught it and I said, no, you will not fly away from me, and you will stay here and we will examine that. And I realized that, really the fact that this mass murder being committed by a black man indicates is that white people are human. Yeah. These white guys are human. That's what it really means. I said it. I'm going on record. That these white guys might need help. Okay? These white guys might need help, but they're not beyond salvation. And the reason I know this is because now I too have a face and a complexion which I can identify with, which looks like me, who has done something awful and horrible, and now I must justify my humanity against this barbarism. All right? But I don't really, because white guys still, you guys clobbers. You guys are the World Series of this domestic terrorism thing. We are just like dipping our toe in the water of this situation. So, no, but it just goes to show that anybody can do this. And clearly there are deep mental health issues, or as I would characterize them, deep spiritual imbalances at work. And it's sad. It's sad to think about the repercussions that these personal annihilations will have on children, loved ones. Just, I don't want to bum you out. This is that podcast. This is exactly that podcast, but we want to approach the suffering with an attitude of holisticness. We want to not wallow in the suffering, but it is a terrible thing. It's an awful thing. And I think that is Mel coming back. Yay. Oh my God. No, I'm just wallowing in how terrible I am at this without you. It's awful.
Like everything was wet. It was.
You're a soldier. You're a soldier in the army of this family. No. We're talking about Virginia Beach now.
Oh gosh.
12 people died. The shooter was black, and I was just lamenting how unfortunate that is, but how also what that indicates is how this is a human problem. How even these white guys, this shows that they're human, because now I have someone that I have to relate to and someone that looks like me who has committed this atrocity. And I have empathy not with the murderer, but with the fact that someone that people thought was a good person, reported, said, nice guy. Right? Didn't even get fired, to my knowledge. Not that I know anything. And
he's still alive?
No, he's dead now.
Oh, I'm about to say.
No, he's dead. But he didn't get fired from his job. He resigned. He put in his resignation.
Oh, prior to?
Prior to. And then came back with 2 legally bought firearms and killed people. And it's just
at his job?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't read anything about it. Oh my! And what was the reason? He was just mad at the job.
We don't know the reason, but he didn't kill himself. He was killed by police, but he killed a lot of his fellow employees and coworkers. Damn. And we don't know. We don't know why he did it, but it just it goes to show, at least in my mind, that there is a spiritual epidemic at work. There is something happening, all over, where people are just, like back in the 90s, it was going postal. That was the thing. We used to joke about it. Comedians used to have bits about it. Postal employees who get laid off and then they come back and kill everybody, based on 1 or 2 stories. And now we're in this era of these guys who are angry and motivated and inspired by Impossible White Man movies and the Avengers or whatever the fuck.
Or just inspired by all the other shooters who are doing it. They don't even have to be Avengers.
Well, I mean, I agree. You're 100% right. But I think there's a golden thread that runs through it, even to the fact that the Avengers are called Avengers and not protectors. But that's a nerd thing for another day. That's it. That's all I want to say about that. There's very little else to say except how terrible a thing it was. And if you want your guns, this is what the world looks like. If you insist that these are indispensable tools of your welfare in cities composed of millions of people, with police who have tanks and bazookas and all kinds of anti-personnel gear from the military, thank you, Patriot Act. If you still think I'm not even arguing with you guys anymore. Fuck it. You want to be Deadwood? You want to shoot? Everybody they shooting. I mean, I don't even know.
Wow.
I'm tired. I'm so tired. Aren't you tired?
I'm very tired. I'm very tired of the epidemic of gun violence in this country.
Unbelievable. It's so numbing. Sucks. I also brought up Trump in England. Did you have anything to say about that? I did
hear a little bit. I heard, I saw little bits. They're trolling him, not the palace person, not the royal family themselves, but
right.
The public at large. There are activities of trolling.
Yeah, the public is not
showing
feeling them.
Obama's approval rating of 72% compared to Trump's at 21 or something like that.
Petty England, and I love it. And I love it.
Little petty action going on.
And I love it.
Across the pond.
And I love it.
And, he's encouraging Britain not to pay the Brexit fee. Basically remove themselves from the European Union and be their own country. Not own country, you know what I mean. Separate economic systems, etc.
Trying to seduce.
It's $50 million that was part of the agreement for any country that wanted to withdraw. He's basically saying, fuck that, don't do it, and just see what happens. Other than that, I don't really know why he's there.
I know why he's there.
Why is he there?
He is there to escape the bullshit.
Well, but like what?
Because he is there.
What is the official reason?
The official reason,
what's like the State Department reason,
is to show off his 2 grown adult children and have them mingle with the royalty of Britain, because it makes him feel like, some bloviating, patriarch or whatever. But there is no official reason. He literally has no official reason.
We just paying for these.
We are just paying for this fantasy land. Well, okay, so let's speak. Now we're back on Trump be Trumpin'. Trump be Trumpin'. We got to talk about some tariffs. Everybody loving some tariffs. Tariffs, everybody. Tariffs. Anybody? Everybody. Tariffs. Tariffs. If you guys have forgotten your civics class, your 8th grade civics, tariffs are a fee, a levy, a tax put on goods coming from certain countries. So he's doing that now to Mexico to get them to stop Central Americans from trying to escape the hellish landscapes that have been created by late capitalism and laissez-faire neoliberal politics. And as these people are
destabilized so many of these countries in the late 80s, mid to late 80s.
All the fallout from the Reaganomics and the regime disruption and regime change and all that shit. All the chickens coming home to roost. All these people looking for a better life in the land of the free, home of the brave. They've watched Rocky. They want their piece of the American pie. We promised them an empire. They want some of it. And instead, when they get to our borders, we say, fuck that. We're taking your kids.
And, in the last few weeks since our last podcast, I mean, more children have died. I read something that there was
Allie.
A bot. I didn't read it because I just can only tolerate so much of the fuckery. But I read the headline said something to the effect of botched reunification leaves children in van overnight.
I saw that.
Like what?
This administration
Does that mean
gives
the
no
adults
fucks.
who work at Border Patrol or who were somehow facilitating the exchange of these children to be reunified with their parents or placement families, just the people didn't show up and they left them?
It's crazy.
They just left them, young children, in a car. I mean, we jail people
in a van
for going to job interviews with the children in the car.
Woo, hold on. Woke with Kids tangent alert. Yo, here's intersection.
We need a sound.
But we gotta find that. Yes,
tangent,
we do.
Like,
I'm gonna find one. Okay, but right now, is speaking of sending motherfuckers to jail for not doing anything. Homie, who during the Parkland shooting or was it a different shooting? But homie who did not act when he was supposed to. I think,
the security officer.
Yeah, was that Parkland though? No, I can't.
It's hard to keep track. But basically, somebody didn't go in.
Yes,
when they had opportunity to go in.
Yes, the officer is facing charges. His job was to go in and protect these kids, and he's not being held accountable for the kids on the first floor. But the kids on the second floor, he definitely had like a whole 60 seconds to go up some stairs and stop the shooter, and another 11 kids died because of that. God, I wish I could find exactly what it was, because I feel bad that I literally cannot keep all of these shootings straight. But anyways, the point of what I'm talking about is, like, speaking of holding people accountable, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like what is the standard here?
What is the standard for holding people accountable for this bullshit?
Well, that to kind of bring it back to the politics, it's like, Hope Hicks, who was, I don't even know what the fuck her job was under Trump, and she ended up resigning, and then the New York Times did this whole editorial on her talking about she's facing this existential crisis about whether or not she should appear before this congressional house to be questioned. It's like, that's like a court order. Like, what do you mean? Should she go? And then even the cover, it was like this glamour shot of her in her frills and her lashes, and it was just like, what the hell are we doing?
Yo, this whole thing about like Mueller coming out to make a statement after being dead ass quiet for like 2 years, coming out to basically say, I said what I said, and what I said was what I said. I'm out.
And what he's also said was, it's not my job to bring the charges. That's y'all job. My job is to report on what I found. And if he was innocent,
I would 100% said that. I would have said innocent.
This mofo is in the clear.
Yes, and he didn't say that.
But
he declined.
And he said, I did not.
He declined to say that. Yes. So.
He said, what I absolutely did not say is that he's innocent.
So there has been a lot, as you can imagine, there's been a swelling and uprising of sentiment amongst in our base to finally get the fucking, get the let out and impeach this motherfucker.
Or at least begin some sort of impeachment proceedings. I mean, can we start asking people?
Send a letter,
Yeah, a memo. Can we get some official memos?
There must be something. Yeah.
I mean...
The inertia, this is that classic Democratic shit where it's like, and I get it, we're the good guys, we're G.I. Joe, we really represent the status quo, and the status quo only improves incrementally. So from Nancy Pelosi's point of view, she's like, the worst thing I can imagine is trying an impeachment, him getting away with it. Well, you guess what? So did fucking Bill Clinton, okay? This has already happened before. Bill Clinton got impeached, he went through the whole thing, and then but guess what? Karma is the long view, guys. You impeach Trump, and maybe the Republicans don't hold him accountable, but then the Republicans own that again, like Nixon, like they own Nixon. They own that again for another 1,000,000 years. And then on top of that, look at Bill Clinton's political capital right now. Is that motherfucker a strong political force right now? Is he Jimmy Carter? Is he the guy you want out campaigning for you? Is Joe Biden calling out the Clinton constituency to come out and represent him? No, because his name is shit. His name is shit. His name is such shit that he poisoned the well of his own goddamn wife, and that's why she didn't get elected. I don't know why anybody can't just admit that. People didn't elect him because everyone was like, the Clintons are full of shit because Bill's a fucking dick mongerer. That's why, okay? So now we're living in this world where Trump, who's orders of magnitude worse than Bill Clinton. Like the real boogeyman, like the real bad guy. And we have this, just fucking impeach him already. So what if the Senate lets him off? He will be remembered in history correctly, and people will know what you did. And
especially
they will know what you did.
Because he really doesn't have any wins to ride on. You know what I mean?
The Republicans are sick of him.
Stats are showing that with the tax cuts, only the rich benefited.
Boom.
Farmers is fucked. Everybody else about to be fucked. We can't get shit from China. We can't. We about to not get shit from Mexico.
He had to give him $16 billion to the farmers just to keep them flush. That's a bribe, y'all. He is bribing his constituency. This is some
So, low key, I heard that they're talking impeachment amongst themselves and basically looking if there's an angle where they can move forward without really calling it impeachment because the word is so loaded at this point.
Wow.
So it's like, how can we hold him accountable without necessarily calling it impeachment? I'm like, do whatever the fuck you gotta do.
I don't care what you do as long as the shit is constitutional and it holds him accountable.
We can call it a beer summit if you want.
Because I read headlines, a beer summit, yeah. But I hear headlines with Trump is literally in his office and the administration is literally ordering ex-aides not to appear in front of Congress. And I'm like, what does obstruction and justice mean when you put
right? Like what
are words? What are words?
Since
what are
when
things?
Is that okay to refuse to appear in a congressional hearing?
What?
That's not his department.
That's not called facilitation. What's the opposite of...
That's not his department, so he should not have any authority to say, don't go to this
co-equal branch of government. Which is...
to answer questions at the minimum.
What? Yo, you bugging, Holmes. You bugging.
And we talking about they need to impeach William Barr because he's not fucking holding up what the hell he...
Well, they're holding him in contempt. They're holding him in slow contempt. They're holding him in slow contempt. Slow contempt. But the Republicans are even done with Trump because this motherfucker with the tariff shit, he's putting Trump. These tariffs, the thing that we keep forgetting is that because up is down and down is up, is that all my life and all your life, the Republicans have been the party of free trade and business. We trying to get that Skrilla, you heard? They not about ideology. They not about isolationism. The Republicans are about getting Skrilla.
So this is really not a good look for them because Trump's on the ideology shit and he's ramping up the base who want that something moral to hold on to, but it ain't helping nobody's pockets.
No.
And at the end of the day, like you're saying, them chickens coming home to roost as we speak.
Quickly.
And going into an election year, this is not a good look. And which is why I agree Democrats need to lean all the way the fuck in.
Yes.
Because there's no out for them.
Kick him while he's
out
down.
For Trump. And there's no real out for Republicans. They've already dug themselves in so deep by allowing him to continue on this path.
They've empowered him. The only reason he even feels entitled to do this wild shit.
They've been giving him a pass the whole time from the fucking campaign.
Thank you.
The second he said grab him by the pussy, and they was like, well, you know,
locker room talk. Who hasn't grabbed him by the pussy once or twice? You know,
supporting Roy Moore when he was said the racist supremacists in Charlottesville. There were some fine people. I mean, he's very consistent.
He's very
crazy consistent.
Hey, D's, yo. The Dems are lost themselves, but that's because there's so many of us. And that's the problem. I was saying like we're like G.I. Joe. And like G.I. Joe can't ever change the status quo in the show. All they can do is fight Cobra, who is trying to fight the status quo. So like things move so slowly. It's frustrating because we want to see change. And Nancy Pelosi is like, but we have to wait until the next episode to see what happens.
Pelosi, like she's not running for president. Like I think part of the problem, you know, we have so many potential candidates at this point. Again, we don't know who the fuck is in charge.
Yep.
So that everybody else can fall in line, whatever, buffer some shit up.
Yeah.
You know,
and meanwhile, overshadowing this whole thing is the fact that we all know deep down inside that the president is a fucking crook. That like he is like the biggest crook that any of us. There's no question in anyone's mind. Even his supporters are not as much like, no, he's innocent. Is more so like, well, he's still against abortion. So I mean, that's really all that matters.
They are grasping at the straws now.
Yeah. Okay.
And since you brought up the abortion, it's also very clear the way that all of these states, I mean, I was seeing this bit from an ACLU, a lawyer who was saying that basically since like 2011, states have slowly been kind of trying to pass legislation, but now they're just taking it all the way to the top of each state to see if the governor will sign it, knowing that it will get blocked, appealed, etc., to try and push it through to the Supreme Court to really challenge Roe v. Wade. So this is kind of a long game that they've been playing, but they know they're running out of time. And with all the chaos, you know, where everyone's fighting Trump, should we impeach him? They're like, well, fuck it, let's just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. And also, I've mentioned this before in some other podcasts that I'm on, but this also, put your conspiracy hat on for a second, guys. We're about to get the blackboard out. But this also is about white supremacy at its root because the abortions that they're trying to stop are white abortions. The statistics show that white women are getting these abortions in higher numbers and higher percentages than anyone else. And what they're trying to forestall is a prediction that was made a long time ago that by 2050, this would be, or 2040, depending on which statistics you look at, that this country would become a majority minority nation. So now what they want to do is that they essentially want to force white women to have these babies, to bolster the population so that they can avert the loss of political and economic power. So anyways, it's just to keep in mind that like, the whole spiel that they use to co-opt black people with the abortion thing with like being pro-life, which black people are pro-life. We are like the most pro-life motherfuckers in this country because we fought through everything in order to stay alive and be in this motherfucker. But they're not really pro-life. They're pro-birth, pro-white birth, but they're not pro-life because they do everything and all the policies that they enact are all anti-life. And if you don't believe that and if you don't understand that, then just watch Ava DuVernay's Brilliant new series, When They See Us.
I was going to segue
which
to
is
that
a
as well
masterclass.
because it's an excellent
Masterclass.
portrayal of how they do not care about these lives that have heartbeats once they are outside of the woman's body.
That's right.
Because what she
Handmaids,
shows in this 4-part miniseries is how these 5 black and brown young men were completely innocent.
Yep.
There was no evidence tying them to the assault and rape of this jogger in Central Park.
Yep.
In 1989.
None.
And that they really didn't even, there was conflicting, I mean, clearly even before they coerced quote unquote confessions from them, none of the stories made sense. They didn't match up. And even the timelines didn't work. The locations didn't really work. And they really didn't look at the full picture. And I think I've yet to watch more than just part 1. It's very difficult to watch.
I haven't watched any of it.
But what is also revealed is that because they railroaded these young men into, the charges and being found guilty and essentially letting the rapist go free, he continued to attack and rape another woman, a pregnant woman.
Yes.
Was killed and was raped and murdered. And her story, I mean, she's another victim of this racist criminal justice system because in their overzealousness to convict these black and brown men and tie it up, they completely missed the real criminal and allowed more women to be brutalized.
Right, exactly.
In addition, not just to the kids and stealing their lives, it affects the family. I mean, it's just a fucking mess.
That's right.
Why it is a must see for everyone, if you know the story, and especially if you don't, and particularly, I'm sorry, if you are white or happen to be white, is because it really, I don't know how any human being can watch this and not see the humanity of these 14, 15, and 16-year-old young men being literally just knocked away and knocked out of them. And when you think about what you have heard throughout the years, in the 30 years since, what was never discussed was how young they were or what their potential was for achieving anything or how it affected their families, like the humanity, the human part of their beings. It was only just the criminality that was put on them. Yeah. Man, it really is a must-see, guys.
You really
get
do.
your Kleenex, pace it out, but you have to see it. It is American history. I mean, if you think you know America, you need to watch this. Then you'll really see.
I'm starting to, and I want to talk about that in terms of the re-traumatization that some black people are reporting, and like I am part of that constituency of like people who are like, I absolutely advocate that everyone should see it. The broadest constituency of people should see it. I want to see it. But it is not a viewing that I approach with a great deal of anticipation or joy because it is a difficult and traumatic and personally traumatic experience for every black person to watch. So I'm starting to realize how the Jews ended up, our cousins, the Jews, ended up with so many of these holidays to remember things. I think you got to schedule this kind of shit. Like, I don't know if it's going to be Black History Month or Kwanzaa or whatever, but I feel like I'm just going to start picking a time of year or a couple of times a year where I'm like, this is where we about to get it
should be.
in.
There should be holidays, I believe, for all descendants of Africans throughout the diaspora to commemorate and grieve and also celebrate our survival of the atrocities that have been put upon us. And I think really why this series is also very important is because ultimately these men survived.
Yes.
They lived. They are alive now. They got this story, their story told. They have families. They have, managed to just overcome. And so the triumph that really, I think that's something that you can also come away with, not just the humanity of Black and brown people. If for some people, some reason you were in doubt about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But really the triumph of the human spirit, because it's unimaginable to me that these men, these young men went through that and survived to become adult men who are, doing their best to continue to have their lives, their families, to love, to learn, to grow, to, still contribute anything to this fucked up society that took their childhood from them.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So, I think you can watch that knowing that, but that's also, it's a double-edged sword. It's bittersweet because for these 5 men who survived, there were so many who didn't, who are still in the system, who were just outright killed. And it really just opens up that space for a conversation that America as a whole should be having.
100% right. I can, yeah. I don't have anything to add to that. Let's change the energy. We're halfway through the show. Let's change
it up. Let's change it all the way up.
But before we do, I just want to tell you the most awful thing you will hear today.
Okay.
I hope this is the worst thing you'll hear today. And I want to, this will be our new palate cleanser. I want to just tell you the worst news.
Before
and then we're just going to
else.
pivot, okay? But the worst news, the worst real news of the day is that experts, the people that know things that we don't, I don't know why motherfuckers do not trust the idea of experts anymore, warn that nearly 60% of our topsoil is gone. Nearly half of our topsoil has disappeared over the last 150 years. If you don't understand what that is, that's the stuff that we grow food in. It's like a honeybee level problem. Like you can't have like flowers and fruits and vegetables with honeybees. Well, you can't have fruits and flowers and vegetables without soil, which is rich. And so that's the worst thing I hope you hear and experience today. And that being said,
D said that he's watching it with his 11-year-old son, and wow, I am not ready to watch that with my 10-year-old. I'm gonna wait till he's about 14, and I have started to afford him that privilege of going out with his friends at night, and it's just so hard for me that I don't even think I'm grounded enough to really watch it with him to help him navigate whatever feelings may come up. But it is definitely viewing, I think, for young black and brown children, young white children. But for me, he's still a little young.
You gotta know your kid. It's like right size it for your kid.
And you gotta know yourself.
You gotta know yourself.
You gotta know yourself. I know we're trying to move away from when they see us, but I do want to add that the DA or the prosecutor, the woman who was heading up the sex crimes unit in New York City at that time, Linda Fairstein, she has gone on to write many criminal whatever books, and she's a best-selling author, and she was on the board. Well, in this cancel culture, they was like, what's Linda up to these days? And they're coming for her because although New York City awarded these 5 men a $41 million settlement after their charges were, what's it called when they are like
expunged?
Yes. The city itself never apologized. Linda Fairstein, who is one of the primary people involved in having these confessions coerced and insisting that these 5 boys be held accountable, in addition to another, I don't know if it was the DA, Elizabeth Lederer. So folks is coming for them. I think Linda already had to cancel all her social media. She just resigned.
She's been living it up.
Resigned from the board of, I believe, Vassar College or another nonprofit.
Yeah. That
people who was working with her didn't even really know it was the same woman. And they're like, wait a minute, who is it? What's she do?
Who are you talking about?
So, there's petitions on change.org. They're petitioning bookstores and Amazon, etc., to remove her books from their purchase availability. And I think something should happen to her too.
I love it.
I can't really feel bad for her. She made her money and she went on with her life. Oh, what a privilege.
Yeah, I love it. Look at that, black people shaping the narrative. That's power.
So Black Twitter don't play that.
You know what, all I gotta say to all that bad news is That's right. Enough of that.
What's some good news.
Jay-Z,
yeah, Billy,
is the first,
he's a billionaire.
Well, the 5th black billionaire, but the first hip hop billionaire. No diss to a former contestant for that title, Dr. Dre. But announcements of his billionaire status were premature. He actually only was worth $800 million after his deal with Beats and Apple. But Jay-Z, after quote unquote deducting a generous, subtracting a generous sum to accommodate for his rock star lifestyle, he still came out well ahead as a billionaire. So congratulations, Jay-Z. We're happy for you, okay?
And I saw that on social media it was sparking an interesting debate because, he's very clearly now part of the 1%.
That's right.
And
actually, you know what? He's better than that. He's part of like the 0.1% because it's only 5 black American billionaires.
But what the debate was,
yes, I hear what you're saying.
I hear what you're saying. Do we applaud it, or do we basically say, well, sure, they're always going to make an example of a few black people or people of color to be like, hey, you too can get this money, and use that basically as the carrot to get people to buy into capitalism, when really most of us will never get to that, no matter what our mindset is. And not to take away any shine.
God damn it. I thought we were moving on to happy news.
Also, to just, I think, put it in a little perspective. I mean, I think you can be like, okay, cool, good for you. But at the same time, let's not drink all the Kool-Aid.
Wah, wah, wah.
I mean,
late capitalism, guys. Yeah, no, you're 100% right, honey. You're
inherent to that
right.
system is losers, people whose backs everything is built upon. People
but here's a story.
Don't get shit.
No, you're right.
Some people get more.
But hold on. I hear you. You're 100% right. Except let's not be absolutist. The thing is, and I'm in advertising, so literally my job is to champion this engine of commerce that we call late capitalism, that we are riding into the future, an unknown future that none of us know, and that may be beautiful and beyond our wildest imagination. But right now, this is the fucking engine that we rode in on. And what I would say to that is that all the scholars and experts, the people that know things that we don't, if you look at the actual statistics in terms of like the standard and quality of living for people, even in the places that still fucking suck balls, people live longer. They have more access to water and food than they ever have, in medicine than they ever have in any time in human history. And that's something to be said for the engine of capitalism and trade, which Donald Trump, as of this moment, is jeopardizing and threatening, by trying to wall us off with tariffs to solve every goddamn thing. I think the Republicans, in a rare moment of wittiness and humor, said he's trying to fix everything but goddamn HIV and in the environment with tariffs. And that's actually pretty funny for a Republican. But I'm like, I hear you. I'm totally 100% with that. The game is, for what it is, fucked up because some people suffer for it. But I don't think there's any situation in life in which there aren't some losers until, the Jehovah's Witness pamphlets come true and we all sit side by side with the lions and the lambs or something. But until that blissful, blessed, amazing moment comes, I think it's something worth noting that the descendants of slaves in this country label, at least in 5 members, starting with Robert F. Smith, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, David Stewart, who I didn't even know until this exact moment, and now Jay-Z.
Wait, who's David Stewart?
Never heard of him. David Stewart he's net worth of $3 billion, and he is a worldwide technology founder and chairman. David Stewart. No idea what this company is, but he owns worldwide technology. And
well, I thought that was interesting too. I saw a post that basically broke down where Jay-Z's billions come from. Some of it's a lot of it's title, some of it's Rock Nation, some of it is cash and investments, some of it is real estate. There were like a few others. It was a very diversified portfolio.
We got our man de Brignac Champagne at $310 million. We got cash and investments, including $70 million stake in Uber. at 220 million. That's Uber, y'all. Douce Cognac at 100 million.
Yeah.
Tidal streaming service at 100 million. Rock Nation at 75 million. His own personal music catalog at 75 million. Art collection at 70 million. Lean on it, girl. And real estate at 50 million. So there you go.
It was, it don't happen overnight. So I am not hating on the
We are getting it. I'm mad they still using this old ass Michael Jordan picture with his bloodshot eyes. Why they?
Is that an old picture? Okay,
They've been using this picture for a long time. But I'm also mad that I never heard of David Stewart because I feel like
they don't want us to know. They don't want us to know.
That's real. No, that's real.
They don't want us to know.
I feel like every little black child should know who the 5 black billionaires are. At the very minimum, who the black billionaires are. Oh my God. Okay, so that's some good news.
What else is I gonna learn about? Okay. This was interesting to me. I have not watched Bill Maher in quite a long time.
Okay.
But one of my favorite journalists, Charles Blow, is going to be a guest on the show.
Really? Has he ever been before?
I don't think so.
I might have to watch
recently. I thought
I
saved it. Hold up.
Might have to see that because Charles Blow does not mince words. And
no. Here we go. He's going to be on Real Time with Bill Maher this Friday. So that would be a worthy reason to watch because he's very knowledgeable. He does his research. He can make a point. And I think if anyone is going to go toe-to-toe with Bill and call him on the bullshit that he often spouts, I believe Charles is our man.
That's right.
Charles is the man. So, check that out on Friday if you guys have HBO.
A little bit more news, not necessarily good news, but Frank Lucas, famous drug kingpin, immortalized in movie American Gangster by Denzel Washington, America's actor, dies at the ripe age of 88.
Damn, I thought he was already dead.
No.
Frank Lucas on there?
That's how smooth, that's how gangsters move in silence, hun. He said, look, I'm getting that movie money. I'm piecing the fuck out. Y'all ain't got to hear about me until I leave this motherfucker. So, God bless. Thank you for the memories.
Wow, okay.
And the wonderful story. I hope you don't burn in hell for the killings.
So I know we kind of moved on from politics, but the House passed the Dream and Promise Act.
Yeah, but the bad news is the Senate's going to kill that shit.
Well, of course, but you know what? It's still a moment.
It is good.
It's still a moment that
at least they're doing their job. At least they're doing their job.
I feel like
they're doing their job.
We don't hear about it on the news. You're likely to think that it's not an issue anymore. We're not working on the Dream Act or some new version of it.
True, but I don't mean to be cynical. But everything the Democrats do right now, you got to look at it in the lens of 2020.
Sure, and I think that's exactly why it's so important. But that's why it's important because
it's time.
We need to affirm that this is a key issue that is going to be part of what's important in terms of the election. And the thing is, for Republicans, they are going to have to figure out what the fuck they think on it. And it's not what they want to do because these people are not going away. No, it's not.
And it's not that because it is legally binding passage if the Senate would get their shit together and do it.
And I read something that we only need 4 Senate seats in 2020 to take it back. Four, y'all.
Listen, y'all don't want to see. Y'all don't want to see the touchdown day. Y'all don't want to see the touchdown day. I almost wish that Trump could win the presidency and we win the Senate.
Oh my God!
Just so that we, can we do that?
The karma on that,
I would just
be amazing.
Love to see that shit. Okay. Some other good news. Speaking of Congress doing good shit, is they finally gave approval to long delayed disaster aid.
Where is that? I read that, but what is that for? Is somebody going to Puerto Rico?
Yeah, look, listen. That was the only goddamn thing I gave a shit about. I was like, listen, if it ain't going to Puerto Rico, then do we give a
what's
fuck?
That? What's that?
I'm looking.
What's good?
It is. It doesn't really say. It's more just like it's just a bill.
Oh goodness!
I'm just a bill. It does say $2.4 billion for community development blocks in Puerto Rico and states. But I don't know. That's vaguely worded.
Is some of that coming to California with the fires and shit?
Super vague, man. And also it's makeup money. It's not. It's like money that we
should have been spent. We should have been allocated.
Like, yeah, exactly. It's not even like get excited money. It's just but yay, do your job. I mean, at this point, it's sad that you got to be like, yay, Congress doing its job and doing things. Wonderful. That's a.
But at the same time, it's like I feel like we're so easily, Congress included, distracted by Trump's fuckery that it's like, yeah, get back to work.
1,000%.
Like, get back to passing bills and shit. Like, okay, great, I'm all here for this congressional hearings and da 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 da. But like, what about passing laws that help people?
1,000.
That's really what we elected y'all to do. So, I feel like let Trump continue to dig his own hole.
1,000%.
Let him dig it.
Yep.
And then we just put the dirt on top.
That's right.
Because he'll already be in there.
That's right.
We're gonna go back. Back on the. Okay, I do want to talk a little bit about She's Gotta Have It season 2, just a little bit.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Okay,
let's talk about that.
Are y'all watching this? Are y'all watching She's Gotta Have It?
I watched it. I've caught up. I've watched
it. Okay, you start. How do you feel about it?
It's like the first one was so indebted. The first one was so indebted and inured to the movie that it was like there was not a moment that didn't beg or invite comparison, and so the experience was lived through a dual consciousness, the whole thing. So I enjoyed it, but at the same time, it was more. I enjoyed it to the extent that it kind of reminded me and was kind of nostalgic of the first one.
Sure.
This series, totally different shit. It was like
they had to make up a whole new story.
They could have started here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying I'm not mad at the first season, but this second season was, to me, so good that it could have been season 1, the introduction to this artist. You know what I mean?
I think part of what my dissatisfaction with it is that 1 and 2 maybe are so different. Or it's like, is this even the same show?
No.
And I think that's part of why I'm not enjoying it, because I wanted to see the I did want to see the continuation of Nola Darling, but basically the person that we were introduced to in season 1, dealing with these relationships, which was the core versus her relationship with herself and self-identifying who she wants to be in the world, which to me was the essence of the movie.
Yep.
And in season 2, it attempts to loosely tie it in with the storyline, but now she's much more trying to identify herself and come to terms with who she is as an artist.
Yeah.
And the relationships are a bit more secondary, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but what they throw in to piece it along was just so, in my opinion, contrived. and it pains me to say that, because I know that one of the staff writers is a young Black woman who wrote a wonderful play, and I'm happy that she got a job. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm excited for her voice, and I'm excited to see all these Black people on screen. And Anthony Ramos is an amazing actor. I'm so glad they gave him more shine in this series in terms of one of the 3, boyfriends that continued into the second season. He is by far the one who became his own character and had his own storyline. I appreciate that. I applaud that.
We talking about Mookie's son, right?
Yes. And I love that spoilers. Because, side note, I also love how they basically can hire all these actors from Hamilton. Like the guy who ran Nation Time played Hamilton.
Yeah.
Brandon Victor Dixon. And in the first season, the dude who attacked her, I forget his name, but he was in the original cast. And obviously Anthony Ramos was in the original cast. And so I was also very just thrilled that they allowed him to sing, because he has a beautiful voice, and they just used that to tie in, the Puerto Rico storyline and all of that. So it wasn't like a whole wash for me, which is the same way I felt about season 1. It was just a different thing.
It was just a completely different
season
premise.
1, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. Season 2, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but I liked it less. The talk about Black British actors taking the roles. And I think DeWanda Wise is a really great actress. I want to see more from her. She killed it in Underground. She killed it in Shots Fired. More and more and more and more of her. But even she could not sell those lines to me. I did not believe that was a real conversation that a African American and a African British person were having about artists coming to America and taking these acting roles. It just did not ring true for me. And it just sounded like basically something that Spike or whoever has already said, like literally on Twitter.
Well, let me jump in there because I agree with you 100% and also think that is a classic Spike Leeism. Like Spike Lee is not a realist. He's
not like light. He doesn't have a light touch.
No. His finger is on the scale. His finger is on the scale. I think
his whole palm is on it.
And so I agree with you. But so it's like it's really a matter. Long ago, when School Days ended, and the end that when he goes wake up. Oh, sorry, do you guys not remember it? It goes like this. Yeah, that part. So when he does that, that moment, I remember thinking, that's the weirdest ending I've ever seen in my life. And at that moment, I faced a crossroad. I was like, do I fuck with Spike or do I not fuck with Spike? Like, this doesn't make any sense. This is not also what makes this show a thing that a person would do.
Is that it's so heavy-handed in that like auteur way that works in a movie because it's 2 hours, it's set, and you're like, okay, that's what I saw. But to drag that out over 8 episodes feels awkward because I think we're used to the format in TV You're right. Where we watch character development as opposed to exposition or like somebody's philosophies coming through, and it didn't just let the images and the characters really speak for themselves. It was like, here's the words I'm going to make you say.
You know what you're right about.
And there were several other quote unquote conversations that were had that were like that.
I think it would be interesting. Now it's interesting you mentioned it that way, especially in terms of the text sort of overriding the visual language or the visual text. And the spoken text and the experience I had of watching it initially was while I was making music. So I had it on mute and was only reading the subtitles. And for me, it was a much more like, wow, what a dazzling color palette and what an interesting shift of for me, it was completely the arresting visual palette.
I could see that.
And then when I went back and later, rewatched it with sort of the talking over it, it was kind of like
it is disjointed. It doesn't flow.
Add anything. It didn't add anything.
It does not flow.
It was secondary to me. It was superfluous to me, and I realized in that moment that Spike is communicating primarily through the visual language, and that the words and shit. I don't know. I kind of think he assumes you're gonna go like, oh, Spike. And
I think that we are going, oh, Spike. I agree. And I think why I'm slightly disappointed, if that's even a word to use, because like he doesn't really care.
No, that's fair.
You're like it or not. But I don't want that from a 8-episode show.
Yeah, I hear that.
I don't want that. I don't want to be preached at. I don't want to hear. And even then, how it's so characterized, again, it's just so heavy-handed. Like, basically, Black Brits are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Like, that's a bit of a reach. It's like no Black Brit has ever been like, fuck whitey, fuck racism, fuck slavery. Like, come on. That's not true. That's like, it was just so outright untrue.
No,
and low-key offensive for anyone who's not African American to act like, okay, we haven't also suffered brutality at the hands of white people and the transatlantic slave trade. Know what I'm saying?
But you come at it from a slightly different origin that I do, because I didn't read that from it. I
hear that, but it's like, it's not just one audience viewing it.
100%.
It's on Netflix, which 100%. Is a global platform. So,
No, 100%. But that guy, at least the guy who was representing that character was a Black Brit. You know what I mean? So like for me, at least, Spike was internally consistent. He kept the same energy. He didn't have an American come up on the show and act like a Black Brit. Like that to me would have been like, oh, that's ultimate petty Spike. showing like fuck y'all motherfuckers.
But see, I think I would have almost appreciated more because that would have been a more subversive way to make the point.
No, as I said,
as opposed to this like overtly heavy-handed way where it was like, I'm just going to see the thing.
Right.
Although I will say this, at the very end of the season, I don't really want to spoil it, but there was all this debate about this piece that Nola, she has a solo show at the end finally, and she's come into her own as an artist, and she's communing with the ancestors, and all of that part was a little contrived too. I mean, it was just like, okay, one drum circle on the beach, and like now you're
that
fucking
one drum circle
spirit.
was representative.
I know, but like
of many drum circles.
Sorry. Okay, so I did think though, I was glad that they like reveal what her piece was, and I thought that was interesting.
Me too, because I thought they were going to go on some. I thought it was,
but this is the thing too, like how the dialogue presented the some people's negative reactions to her piece, and then to reveal what it was, that didn't quite align with me either. I felt like, that seems like, once I saw it, I was like, that actually seems like a bit of an extreme reaction to have to the piece, to say, it's too exploitative, it's too, re-traumatizing, even in the context of like what we're saying, whether it's When They See Us or people don't want to watch 12 Years a Slave, or I didn't watch the Khalif Browder documentary. There's some things I don't watch because I don't want to see Black bodies brutalized or beaten down. And that was definitely the context for the art piece that she had behind a curtain. And so then when you saw it, it was like, that was not what it was built up to be. I don't know. I just felt like there were a lot of those moments for me. And so overall...
Okay. No, I think that's fundamental.
There were a lot of moments where it was like built up in the text to be something.
Yeah. And
then how it was revealed, whether it was through the characters or their emotion or the visuals, I was like, this is not what my brain thought I was going to feel based on what you told me I should feel.
I thought they had one of two ways to go. They could either go MacGuffin route, and it could be the Tarantino glow in the box.
I thought they were going to do that when the friend came and was like, no, it's wrong. I thought that whole scene was just so we could see they could both cry.
But if they did that, I thought that was going to be weak sauce. I remember watching and thinking like, they're not going to show it.
I agree. If they did not show it, I would have also been disappointed. So I mean, maybe you just can't win with me. Yeah, I'm very much open to
when they showed it, I was prepared for it. There was nothing that they could show me that would equal homeboy, dude in a face mask coming out talking about, that reaction he gave. Like,
right.
Nothing.
That's what I'm saying.
But that being said, that to me is like the most realistic part of Spike, because there are people in New York who have there are people who have outsized reactions to things that to me do not seem to be that size. Do not seem to be that,
Okay, question. This is not a big spoiler. So when she like takes down the bed frame and puts up a new headboard, what was that?
I thought that was symbolic of the sex shit going away.
It wasn't her loving bed anymore.
Correct.
Right. So what? Because there's no more like platform for the candles. Because she still had a big ass headboard.
I honestly don't know 100%. All I know is the candles and the headboard. Like, all I know is that bed.
She was shifting from like this being a solely sensual place for sensual expression.
I want to talk about that because that was something deep to me.
I mean, I felt like it was, and then when it was building up, and then when it was, I was like,
But that is but no. I mean, that part precipitating what to me overall, I guess what I really liked about it was that. I like the fact that it was, to me, it was all about her as an artist. In other words, it was the first time I saw a woman portrayed in a way that I could relate 100% and fully as just an artistic being, as somebody who is just exploring possibilities, struggling to create an identity.
To formulate that and to really solidify that. I agree.
I was really excited about it. I was excited about it because I've just never seen a black woman represented that way. It's always a dude, a black dude who's always super cool fucking black dude. But in the black woman is like this, 3C wavy hair girl a loose curl, light skinned girl who's there to inspire him, or like, muse or some shit. You know what I mean? And like, this was all about her using the world as a muse. And I was like, oh shit, this is what it feels like to, I don't know, this is what it feels like to not be centered. And I was excited by that. It was exciting to me to like the beginning of it, like the first relationship is completely displaces the man shit. And it's just her and Opal. And I was like, oh shit, in a lesbian relationship, you can still have this dominant, submissive, dichotomy and rebelliousness and tension.
Okay, I'm always shocked when people say stuff like that, because we're all around the same age. So it's like, did no one else grow up watching the L Word?
I didn't grow up watching the L Word.
You know what I'm saying? But like in your 20s, when the L Word came out and was on for like 5 seasons and was the shit to watch, was the show to watch. One of the whole points was to really show how vast and diverse the lesbian community is.
Yeah, no,
to show the nuances
you're right.
of those types of relationships. So I guess I'm always a little surprised when it's still like a new thing. Like,
well, no, it's not new. I'm not saying it's new. And I watched the L Word. You turned me on to the L Word. It's not that it's new to me.
It's a good show.
It's not that
they're bringing it back.
It's not that it's new to me. They are?
Yeah.
Oh, that's dope.
I know. I'm excited.
I'm good. I'm happy for you. I'm genuinely happy for you. It's not that it's new. It's that is the power of art when it's done by somebody who understands your background. It's like the L Word was not created by Spike motherfucking Lee. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
okay, you're right.
Yeah.
Right. This is a man telling this lesbian story versus lesbians and women telling stories about women and lesbians.
And I'm sure he got some help from a lot of black women to tell the story. But yes, ultimately is a story told in a context that I can understand and be like, oh, this is what it feels like to be centered in blackness and to be centered in this kind of thing, and blah, 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 blah. But just watching, I was like, I really relate to Opal. And I was like, oh my God.
She's a great character. I really liked her character.
It just suddenly made me realize, like, all this gender shit. I mean, like, I understood intellectually that gender is a spectrum and that it's not real. But like watching that, I emotionally felt like, Nola, you have fucked up. Why you doing my girl Opal like that? You know you need to respect her parental rights and all this kind of stuff.
That part, I thought that part rang true, and I believe that part. And I was like,
this is mad real. I was like, this is mad real. And I don't know. It was good.
Like I said, I wouldn't throw the whole thing away. I value its place. I value its place on television. And again, I'm always in favor of black and brown actors working.
Word.
Writers, crew, all of the above. And it just, I don't know what I thought it was going to be. And I really tried to go in with an open mind as I did in the first season. But I just feel like, they just had to pull so much out of thin air that I think it struggled. And maybe in some way, and for some viewers, that really will represent and be a metaphor for Nola, trying to pull her new identity, not centered in these relationships, out of thin air, and basically create her new identity solely and primarily as an artist. So I do see that. I don't know what I wanted from it, but it didn't quite get it to me.
I hear that. Well, you know what? I think I don't think I've ever seen a Spike Lee film, literally not a Spike Lee film, except Inside Man. Except maybe Inside Man. I don't think I've ever seen a Spike Lee film in which I've completed and been like, that was 100% satisfactory.
Crooklyn for me. Crooklyn's 100%.
You know what? No, I take that back.
Forever and ever.
For me, you know what it is for me? Mo Better Blues. Mo Better Blues. Mo Better Blues.
Considering this is mainly just about these men and the women are so like periphery, I'm going to say no. But
that's why Spike has something for everyone.
Inside Man is a wonderful film, but again, it is not centered on black people, so it's a good movie.
That's why I take it back. That's why I take it back.
But for me, Crooklyn is 100% solid. Give it 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'll watch that any time of day.
Mo Better Blues.
So well done. I love Delroy Lindo.
Yeah.
Can we get him back into some films, please, y'all?
Yes.
Is he on TV? What's he doing? Come on. Delroy Lindo is
good question.
Really stunning actor. I can tell. I'm assuming, and I'm going to project that he's classically trained, and I would love to see him do like some August Wilson shit, some Shakespeare shit. Like, just give him all the really masterful roles. Fucking Hamlet. Come on.
Why not?
He could do it. He could do it.
Why not?
Do it to death.
Anything else important to talk about? Do we have to talk about Picnic While Black?
Not.
We got to talk about any more bum you out news? I don't know. There's so many things that we could talk about. So many things that we will not.
I don't know. It's June, y'all. Coming up on the middle of the year. This is always a time for me to just be like, okay, what did I want to accomplish in 2019? Let me pick up the pace or refocus and realign or whatever it is. Shout out to my actor peoples, anyone listening here. If y'all are not listening to the podcast, Audrey Helps Actors, you're not even in the game because she breaks the business side down. Okay. And if you have been giving yourself a pass or an excuse and making all these reasons why your career is not moving forward because of so-and-so and such and all these other gatekeepers, fuck all that. It's not the fair game. It's not the fair business. It is show business. And she really talks about how to take that information and use it to move the career forward. And I think, at least for me, in listening, it was very clear to me where I was like, oh, I need to level the fuck up if this is really what I want. It's literally, if you're here in LA, you are training for the Olympics. And if you're not training like an Olympian, don't expect to reap the benefits and the rewards that these top tier actors are achieving because they're at an Olympic level. So that was a little thing there, a little shout out there.
I like the cut of that jib. Well, okay, and likewise in artistic fashion, I will recommend a podcast for my musically inclined folks if you're a songwriter out here in LA or anywhere else, Nashville or thereabouts. Check out And the Writer Is. It's a lovely little podcast hosted by a delightful young white man who I don't remember his name because I don't have a lot of RAM left over for that kind of thing. But And the Writer Is a podcast where he hosts a songwriter, sometimes of note, often of not, but always of some, expertise and experience and something to convey that will explain to you how the shit is really going and why you don't know what the fuck you're talking about and why you
That's exactly how she breaks it down. And again, I do want to just say, because that was a good point, it is very much geared if you are here in LA, but also she has a lot of information for those in other markets, because oftentimes in other markets your goal is to then move to LA or New York. So it's just a really worthwhile. She brings in a lot of experts and guests who just drop the gems.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, man. I think we've done like an hour and 12 minutes.
What?
That's enough podcast for y'all people. Come on. All right.
Thank y'all for hanging with us, listening to us, sharing us, liking us. I don't know how we have continued to do this. I really don't. But by y'all's support.
Yes. Look.
So thank you.
Mel, when I met you, I was trying to get you on the mic, and this is how I fulfill that promise. All the time. Every couple of weeks.
That is true.
That's 100% true.
So, y'all be well. Take time for yourself. Level up. Hold yourself accountable. Seek out joy. That's all I got.
I like that. Peace.
Stay woke. Stay woke.